a culture of trust, a model of people empowerment. This will be the outline of my presentation. No, it's not working. Why is it so? I'm sorry.
Go back here. And then try it again.
Okay. Sorry. No problem. So I'll be presenting the background of my study, the method of research, my findings, and a 6-minute video. I'd like you to see the context where I have been, and then the practical implications. This paper considers the ways in which the island people of this country come together and interact over extended periods. It offers a brief description of the island in terms of physical and social-economic dimensions and the significant implications of the spiritual culture of trust for family, government, education, and business. Let me quote Matthew facts to start this. Matthew facts shared, there is a necessary connection between trust learned regarding human's own body and his own existence. The original blessing and the blessing that earthiness is the trust of cosmos. The search for truth about the human person corresponds with the search for the truth about the universe. Filipinos have their own spiritual culture. It is a culture grounded on spiritual aspect that embodies their own unique organic views on life, its realities, which brings forth morals, values, beliefs, and practices. Despite the many innovations in lifestyle, there are Filipinos who have remained attached to the indigenous ways early Filipinos lived and shared together. There are still people who have less access to basic needs but have been living a good life. This has led me to consider the trust that holds them together in the island called Isla Verde. To give you some of which that I have known about Isla Verde. Isla Verde has its biodiversities, which is among highest and very well known internationally as the center of marine biodiversity in the world. And locally, a peaceful and harmonious community. Let me draw you to the method of why I had to do this. I have this phenomenological study, which is culturally rooted, pamamayabay, which was introduced by a Filipino anthropologist, Dr. Grace P. O'Dowd. It is a reflective journey towards full understanding of trust. It is an empowering energy for the people of Isla Verde, which is an affirmation of human power to will and act according to his capacity to get involved individually or collectively towards the attainment of their goals. So this is how I did the pamamaybay approach. So I had 2 years exposure in the island, shared stories, interviews, in terms of objectivity, validity, validations of stories. I had my personal reflections. I got the thematic documentation, and from there, reflective analysis of thematic documents and interpretation. The lives of the co-workers, the lived experiences, where I got them recollect, narrated their stories, review my own story, rereading of selected relevant literature and materials, and then rewriting of my analytical reflections. So to give you the brief description of the island, Batangas City, close to Manila, is considered to be a city with an island. Isla Verde lies the passage in the Verde Island Passage between the provinces of Batangas and Oriental Mindoro. It is a mountainous island which approximately has a land area of 1,678 hectares. So if you could have this one, just that little island there. Former President Macapagal Arroyo has declared that it is the center of marine biodiversity in the world, resulted from the 3-year study conducted by the Global Marine Species Assessment of the World Conservation Union. And of course, there are other studies which we have to refer to, as the claim would say. For the population that just had it, the most recent is 2009, and they had 8,225. The island is surrounded with sand, reefs, and has numerous sites for diving, snorkeling, and fishing. There are thick strands of bamboos and bully trees, caves, creeks, and steep connected mountain. Currently, the major occupation of the people includes fishing, farming, livestock raising, banig making, it's a mat making from the leaves of bully tree. Pakaskas making is another source of sugar from the bully tree, carpentry, business, and other employment. For the findings, how did I get into the spiritual culture of trust of the Filipino people in that island? The lives of the core researchers are seen beyond their ordinary experiences. Other clues providing a deeper understanding of how the power of the human spirit can transform one's life. The spiritual culture of trust is rooted in the affirmation of the following. 1. Filipino spirituality, identity, and culture. That, of course, leads to trusting God, trusting human nature, trust in oneself, trust in others, trust in nature. And the second one is justice in society and economy. The Philippines is endowed with highly spiritual people and abundant natural resources, but according to Garospe, a Filipino anthropologist, the Philippines' social realities is still characterized by suffering due to poverty and injustices, lack of peace and order. They are on the crossroad, a path leading to devastating future, and the other offering the hope for a sustainable future. And the question is, what kind of nation are Filipinos building for the future? Is this disastrous or sustainability? So let me draw you to the Philippine spiritual culture of trust. Number 1, trust in God, faith and spirituality, that we are God-centered. And then the second one, trust in human nature. Loob of the Filipino is translated as kindness. Lakas ng loob is translated as inner strength. Filipinos have drawn themselves to their own inner and or spiritual nature more than their outer or physical nature. The loob, what is intrinsic of the Filipinos, is intrinsically kindness and inner strength, which can be intrinsically manifested through and by relating to people and nature. And to continue, the third one is trust in oneself, one's capability to be creative. Filipinos have their own creative way of thinking their lives, spending the day with combined work and fun, taking what is available, sharing stores together, celebrating together, accommodating people, especially those in need, opening up problems and concerning with others, showing achievements and knowledge about something, setting goals, adjusting in relationships, socializing, connecting, etc. There are numerous achievements by some Filipinos that made them distinct from other communities. Third one is trust in others, the context of family, social trust, and community. Just like I had experiences, you can leave your doors open and anybody can come in. Okay, so that's social trust. Filipinos are highly relational. Their life is mostly centered in family. And they could easily trust people because they have the capability to extend for others. And then, of course, trust in nature, that interdependence. Filipinos are, of course, nature lovers. Much on nature, their homes, they depend on their homes, their livelihood, and their nourishment. And of course, people from the provinces have learned to live in harmony with nature and aware of their environment. This is an illustration. I made this one in the computer of a bully tree, affirming spiritual culture of trust in a symbolic bully tree. So, rooted in the trust in God, faith, spirituality, trust in nature, oneself, and others, and then trust in nature, and then the fruits of trust. This illustrates that spiritual culture resonates with the theology of creation, and that the world and everything pertaining to the world has its origin, ground, and final goal. For justice in society, the highest form of measuring development for the economy is governed by justice and charity. Filipinos may benefit from these fruits of peace, harmony, hope, and empowerment. These are the very basic values which inspire people to work individually and collectively for their well-being and the well-being of the community. This is one of which the very striking. Individualism and materialism are far from the values of the Isla-Verde people because they consider most resources and responsibilities as shared resources and responsibilities. This is how I illustrated it, and of course, the dynamics of trust shows that the lived experiences of people represents the limitation in the nothingness, because they have less access to water, less access to electricity. They have just generator, 2 hours during the night and 2 hours during the dawn. And then later in the video was that each person should have to draw water from a well. There is only one well which is not salty. The rest of the well are salty. So they have to carry on for that. So I'll be presenting to you my video. Just this is just 6 minutes. Do I still have time?
We've got 8 minutes.
Okay.
Scattered experiences allow Filipinos to understand that they are spiritual and trusting being. There are marks in history that speak of trust and of hope. Trust is a cosmic concept which allows people to live through openness to the many possibilities and challenges in life. This has led to a harmonious community life with the belief that there is so much to share. The spiritual culture of trust has given them a sort of community life where everyone can live and enjoy peace and harmony with self, others, nature, and the sacred source. Living life one moment at a time. Modernism introduced both rural and urban areas in the Philippines the ideas of materialism and individualism, which came to change the original view of sharing life in a community. People in Ireland admit that even though their way of life is simple, there are times when it can be complicated because of limited resources around the island. Filipinos have their own spiritual culture. It is culture grounded on spiritual aspects that embody their own unique, organic views on life and its realities, which bring in morals, values, beliefs, and practices. Trust is an intrinsic spiritual culture which is being challenged and is not far from reality that humans' attitudes towards their wants measure up to the capacity to live life to the fullest. It is in valuing that Filipinos will be able to comprehend how life may be substantial to follow. The very Filipino approach in understanding the indigenous way of dealing with life was further exhibited by the people of Isla Verde who, on a day-to-day basis, treated life extraordinarily and acted on it faithfully in affirming their own Filipino spirituality, identity, and culture for the promotion of justice in the society and economy. It is with this inspiration that the researcher studies the inner workings of life of the settlers of Isla Verde. The researcher believes that the more wonderful and expansive the study, the more it can pose an irresistible challenge to unfold the lived experiences of those who come to reveal that life has so much more to offer. If only humans could trust.
Pinagdadasal namin yung mga mahihirap na tao na walang inaasahang Diyos.
Nagtinda ako para ako matulong sa tao. Kaya nga ako yung nautang sa akin, hindi ko mapahingihan. Pagkakatapos yung makabayad o kaya hindi din ko matiis na hindi ko sila pautang.
This study on Isla Verde's own spiritual culture of trust has led to the discovery and appreciation of what Isla Verde people already have: peace and happiness in their personal and community life. This reality as well might bring people hope and cultivate aspirations for social well-being. According to Professor Felipe de Leon Jr., there is no universal path to development. The idea of development depends on the strength of each culture in a community. Each should find its own paradigm rooted in their own cultural identity and fundamental values. Empowerment is complementary to social development. Filipinos can generate socio-economic opportunities when they are able to set goals for themselves, anchored by their own values and identity. Filipinos should take pride in their roots and their values like life, trust in God, interiority, and fellowship. Borrowed thoughts and value systems can lead to despising our own thoughts and value system, which truly are productive and creative. Social well-being is equivalent to social development, and the primary step to this is the identification of the goals. What kind of nation do we want for our future generation?
Okay. Last few slides. Practical implications. To the Filipino family, in the face of serious threats to the Filipino family with high rate of broken homes that led to juvenile delinquencies, drug addiction, child abuse, the family should create among themselves a culture of trust grounded on spirituality that could help them uphold fidelity in marriage and family life. To the Filipino government or other governments, the primary goal of government is to protect the people and nation from destruction. Their choices to facilitate the different programs and infrastructures must be in congruence to human development and ecological protection. To all religious institutions, we all know that some injustices in society come from different religious perspectives. The culture of trust is empowering in the sense that it paves room for openness, which implies movement in communication, vision, and relationships. And so a religious institution should not stand alone for its own beliefs, but rather find association with others to save souls. For they do not necessarily need to oppose one another. For God is always larger than any concepts man can possibly have. To all educational institutions, we know that educating the young people is drawing the best in them. There is a need for a change of a paradigm from a dictatorial supervision to a culture of trust, providing an environment balancing discipline, freedom, confidence in their nature, providing good role models for them to follow, making them not only intellectually competitive, but morally competent must be the authentic goal of education. Spirituality is absolutely essential, not yet largely overlooked in management, thinking both in private and public institutions. So there has to be more on spiritual values. And to the business sectors, the bottom line is man does not live by bread alone. From the writings of John O. Whitney, in one of his, of course, books, he suggested that in the economics of trust, there should be a fair share of finite resources. There is a need to distinguish non-economic growth from economic growth and accept that non-economic growth is equivalently important to a successful economic growth, which requires attention from its leaders. Thank you very much for listening.